Hi everybody. Today we're going to continue talking about the importance of biodiversity and things that humans have done to reduce the amount of biodiversity on this planet. We've already talked about this farming practice called monocultures, where the farmers grow just one variety of crop over large areas. And it's a risky practice because the entire crop can be wiped out by a single variable. A second way that humans can reduce the amount of biodiversity on this planet is through something called invasive species. Invasive species is when foreign species are introduced to a new environment and they cause harm in this new environment. Now, they're either introduced to this new environment on purpose or by accident. Alright? Like the latest invasive species that you probably heard of is the murder hornets that came to the US from Asia. Alright, so how do these invasive species harm an ecosystem and harm the amount of biodiversity? Because it seems like importing a species from one part of the planet to a different part of the planet should increase biodiversity because you're adding something new to the environment. But we find out that these invasive species will start to outcompete the native species, the species that were always there and they're supposed to be there for resources, right? And these invasive species are an unfair advantage because they have no natural pests and no natural predators in this new environment. So they can grow exponentially and just kind of take over. So while you're introducing one new species, that one new species might wipe out dozens of native species. Right? An example that we're going to learn more about is this little aquatic plant that we see here called the water hyacinth. Water hyacinth is normally from South America, but it was imported to Africa where it clogged up all of these African lakes. Right? And it caused a bunch of problems for the African people, right? It made it difficult to get out to fishing grounds, right? It made the water really still and stagnant, which caused disease. It created a breeding ground for parasites. So it was a big problem for the African people, and they have to figure out a way to now get rid of this water hyacinth, which has really grown through all of their rivers. The second way that humans reduce the amount of biodiversity that I want to talk about today is habitat destruction. And habitat destruction is actually the leading cause for species going extinct. Right? And we destroy habitats in a number of different ways. The first is deforestation. And this is just the removal of trees in a certain area. Now, people always had the idea that, you can cut down a tree and then, just plant a tree or two and the forest would be fine, right? But if you cut down all the trees and replant them, those trees that you replant may never grow back because what you're doing is you're changing the forest at this point. You're changing that ecosystem permanently. So all that good topsoil that the trees need in order to grow healthy, there's nothing to hold it in place once you remove the trees, and that gets eroded away, right? Without that good topsoil, without the good trees to kind of hold the water in place, what you have is the beginning of this process called desertification, where you turn a once productive forest ecosystem into like a desolate desert ecosystem. The third type of habitat destruction is wetland destruction. And wetlands were once considered to be just wastelands, right? Like we thought that these were useless. Nobody wanted to live there. You couldn't really build on them. There's nothing you can do with the wetlands. So for a while, we were just filling them in with cement and putting industrial parks there. However, once we destroyed these wetlands, we found out that we had a hard time keeping our water clean, and we had to spend billions of dollars to purify our water when the wetlands used to do it for absolutely free because the wetlands act as natural water filters. Like dirty, polluted water flows into the wetlands, and clean water comes flowing out of the wetlands, right? Without them, we had to figure out a way to do it ourselves, and that cost us lots of money every single year. Finally, we have acid rain. And acid rain is caused by air pollution, right? And when it rains down acid rain, it's not like acid that's going to melt your skin off. It's just rain that has a slightly lower pH, and that gets in the soil, and that lowers the pH of the soil. Right? So now you have slightly acidic soil, and slightly acidic soil doesn't hold on to nutrients very well. So all these nutrients get washed away, And the plants can't take up the nutrients anymore. And that's why you have forests getting wiped out by acid rain as well. Alright guys, that's it for today's lesson. Thank you.